a new ministry. And that ministry is going to be the hub for the job creation. Because I remember that the president had always said that they will leverage on 3 ministries, largely for job creation: agriculture, the infrastructural ministry, solid minerals. So when the minister goes to defend his budget, all this will come into the open.
Okay. The president came to some agreement with the UAE last week when he visited. How is that supposed to impact this fight?
Oh, you see, when you know that there's no safe haven for your loot, then it becomes a disincentive also to even try to steal. But more importantly, when you know that you can be exposed, and there is an agreement between the 2 governments to even repatriate these looted funds if it's proven to be gotten illicitly, or even to try you in both countries or to extradite you, I think it helps a lot.
So how many countries are we going to be signing agreements with? Because these monies are all over the world. In some crooked little corners as well, Cayman Islands, I'm sure.
See, precisely, Alero, the whole fight is not just about signing agreements. The whole fight includes taking also preemptive steps that will make sure that even the stealing is not easy. Now, I just read the report by PwC that if only Nigeria could reduce its corruption level to the level of Ghana. Yes, that to the level of Ghana. I think Colombia, that our GDP by 2030 will get to $2 trillion from 514 billion today. That shows that there's a real nexus between the economy, growth, and corruption. That if we could just reduce it to the level of Ghana and Colombia, these are not the cleanest countries in the world. Now, see, when people say, oh, let the government concentrate on the economy and leave corruption, and I say, no. Even the 2016 budget will be unrealizable if we do not block all the loopholes.
Well, it's a war against corruption. How does it reflect in the planning of the 2016 budget? How is it reflected?
Oh, very much. Because you see, 2016 budget, we had our objectives very clear in 2016 budget. We knew how much we could raise internally. We also knew how much we could raise from sale of crude. And we knew that both sale of crude, that was a bit bleak. Some of that, even though we did even though our benchmark is $38, we are selling under 30 today. But one thing was clear to us was that if we could really block the leakages in the civil service, in the public service, we could save well over 1 trillion naira. And we started already.
With the TSA?
With TSA.
Which was introduced by the previous administration.
No. It was actually, it was only this administration that, implemented it.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 is that even in drawing up our budget, we made sure that apart from capital, overhead was kept very much at the level of the 2015. We did not allow anybody to bring, an overhead that he could not defend. Now, one area that was not touched was the area of, wages and salaries, because we do not want to go retrenching people. But in areas of overhead and allowances, I think we made sure that we kept pretty to basics. But many of the government organizations like NMPC, like Customs, like NECO, like WAEC, these are government organizations that are fully funded by government. Government pays their salaries, government pays their overhead, and yet they do not return their surpluses to government. If And we are going to succeed in making sure that there's accountability there. We now told them, it's not for you now to do like you used to do before, where you make 1 billion naira a day, and then you take out of that 1 billion, you spend, and you see all that is you are left with is 100,000 naira. No. And whatever you make, you pay into the TSA. Then you now bring forward your own budget, which will be approved. Your requirements, it's only that one you can spend. And I'm sure that this is going to improve.
But for institutions like the NNPC, for instance, what mechanisms have you put in place to check how much? Because that matter of how much do we get at the wellheads, how much of crude do we generate, how much of it do we sell, how much exactly do we refine, how much comes out, the condensates, the byproducts that come out, where do they go to from our refineries? Are there mechanisms to check all of this so that you can get the exact amount that
this is part of the reform that the Minister of State of Petroleum has actually even started before even the cabinet was constituted, because we all know there's a lot of opaqueness in that particular industry, and I think it's working very hard at it. And that's why we're able to discover a lot of mind-boggling discrepancies between what we're supposed to be making and what is actually coming in.
Now, cost of governance still seems to be quite high. In fact, there was a lot of hue and cry a week or two ago on social media about how much the National Assembly was going to be spending on cars and how much the presidency was going to be spent on, the presidency was going to be spent on feeding. Those costs seem outrageous. So it doesn't seem to the common man on the street that this government is doing anything different from the last government.
I can assure you that we're doing a lot different from the last government, especially in our determination to cut down cost of governance. You see, I think a lot of what are facts, what are myths, will come out at the budget defense, because everybody will be called upon to come and defend his budget. For instance, there was this hue and cry about the vehicles, that the presidency was ordering. And like I explained, that I was privileged to be the chaperone to the president of Ghana at the last ECOWAS meeting. And I know that there's what we call the protocol VIP unit in the presidency, and they must provide, cars like, Mercedes-Benz, for visiting heads of state. And probably this is the fleet that we're talking about, which they are actually lumped with the presidency, budget for vehicles. But I think the defense of the budget will be very transparent and be very open, and then we'll actually see whether we are true to our precepts or not.
We have a lot of questions coming in, but let's talk about those cars, for instance, providing car services. One would think that, seeing that this administration is looking to build from within out, one would think that you'd be looking towards those that manufacture or couple some of these cars in Nigeria. You'd be looking towards them to provide the cars needed. Why would you still need to bring them out?
There's a minimum amount of security that you need for a visiting head of state. Now, if you are talking about ministers and, public servants, you can actually talk about, patronizing made in Nigerian cars. And I think there's even a policy right now. You cannot buy buses or, cars if there are Nigerian companies that are assembling, similar things. But I think you cannot use the same
do you think it would be wise, when it comes to these matters now, do you think that it would be wise to return to those times when there were policies like your children as a public servant must go to a public school, you must attend a public hospital, you must buy made in Nigeria clothes and wear them, you must use everything made in Nigeria? Can we get back to that point?
See, there's nobody would argue with you that we'll get back to those points. But the questions you ask yourself are, how enforceable are they? Where are the schools? Of course, when I say are the schools or the hospitals, I'm indicting government. But the truth is that until you make available those schools, you make available those hospitals, you cannot actually ask me or you which school my kids should attend or which hospital we should attend. I think when we're able to provide very good schools We are all products of these public schools. We are able to provide very good healthcare system. You don't even need to campaign for anybody not to go abroad. But I think our focus now should be to provide these very good schools at affordable prices, make sure that the healthcare system is revamped, and we are starting by building and by building and rehabilitating 10,000 health centers all over the country. That's the way to start, because the most important area of the health sector is the primary health care, and these are building hospitals, building cottage hospitals, health centers in wards, employing not just necessarily only doctors, but getting sure that you have at least midwives, you have health workers that can man each of these health centers.
I have read somewhere on social media that probably there should be a deliberate policy